to Walking with J.Beau, an almost daily walking vlog. It is voting day, election day. I voted the first week of October, and I'm in Maine, if you're wondering. And I wanted to see, just for the heck of it today, we're going to go for a walk, and we're going to head towards the voting place. That would be my voting place, even though I've already voted. I just want to see if there's anything I can see with turnout. There's a lot of really interesting things to talk about today, having to do with the election. So I guess this can be my kind of an election special, I guess. What's special about it? Well, Republicans are voting early this year. So that's a big deal. There's a lot of enthusiasm by Republicans for voting this year, nationwide. It's really nice to see. I think it's going to make the difference. We get kind of a big deal with, I'll turn the camera around up ahead once we pass an intersection as we look at hairy balls. So, as you can see, we're a little bit overcast today. We had some rain last night through this morning. It's clearing up. It's actually quite mild right now, which if you're down south, you'll think that's funny. It's in the mid-50s, but it feels like a warm mid-50s. I'm not wearing gloves. So anyway, my initial assessment is, well, I'll wait until I flip the camera around before I really get into this, because there's some interesting stuff to talk about. I still feel really good about the enthusiasm and the turnout so far, which I'll get into shortly, and why it's important, especially in Pennsylvania, especially because it's a big deal. And the reason why it's a big deal is because of all the early voting that happened, and a combination of the large numbers of Democrats that are not turning out. And that is official data now. There's a large number of Democrats not turning out thus far in Pennsylvania. And of course, that is always good news, because Democrats go into the voting day with a pretty substantial lead usually. In 2020, they were 1.6 million. When election day came around, the Democrats were already 1.6 million ahead. This year, they're nowhere near that. And to be quite honest with you, if the Republicans turn out like they should, they will win Pennsylvania. So I'm going to turn the camera around now. Hi everybody. I got my new dark MAGA hat. Hope you like it. Yes, I'm wearing a MAGA hat on election day. And so it's one of those things where we're talking between 400 or 600,000 that it's somewhere. Okay, I want to be careful when I say this, because most of the election's going to happen tonight. I don't want to come back on here and say, oh geez, I shouldn't have said that, given what I know later. But this is data, and it's statistically accurate, that in 2020, the Democrats were leading by 1.6 million as voting day started, election day. And by the end of the election, because the Republicans showed up and voted early, Joe Biden ended up winning by just 80,000 votes. Now, whether you think there was cheating or not, this is what I was trying to tell you, that if you make it big enough, they won't be able to cheat. Because if they did cheat in 2020, they only won by 80,000 votes out of millions of voters. And that's a big deal. That's why I was trying to tell you that if you make it too big to rig, there's too many votes for them to make up, to catch up. So the good news is, so far, Democrat enthusiasm is down a lot. And not just a little bit, they're down a lot, okay? This is really good news. And what I'm basing that on is the number of ballots that have been returned by voters. So these are statistical, factual numbers. So we had 1.6 million advantage for Democrats going into voting day. This year, they're around a 600,000 vote advantage, somewhere between 6 and 9. So, and the reason why I say somewhere in between, because there are unregistered voters that can vote in Pennsylvania. And what I mean by that is non-party affiliated. So, but I guess the point I'm making is, yes, we've had a lot of people show up and vote for Republicans early. But if you just go by mail-in ballots, okay, just mail-in, Democrats are underperforming by a lot. And that's really important, because these are the ballots that are going to count after tonight. So they're going to have the election today, and then people are going to show up tonight and during the day today, and they're going to vote. They're going to count that vote, and then they're going to start counting the absentee and mail-in ballots after the polls close. And that's why we're not going to know who won Pennsylvania, unless, this is a big if, okay? Unless if President Trump really performs exceptionally well in Pennsylvania, and they're more than 2% or more ahead in Pennsylvania. If that's the case, the Associated Press usually uses the 2% mark to declare a winner in a state, even though the county's not done yet, projected winner. So if that gets around 2% tonight, above it, the AP will be forced to call it for Trump, even though they're not done counting. But that can be very dangerous, because let's say they call it for Trump and it turns out that's not the case, because of what Pennsylvania has, which they call, you can, as long as your ballot is postmarked before, if your ballot is postmarked on election day, your mail-in vote will count. So that's why that's risky, because let's say they project Trump wins, and then a whole bunch of these unexpected amount of mail-in ballots come in that were mailed at the last minute. Theoretically, that could happen. So I guess what I'm saying is don't get too high until they have officially declared that Trump has won it. And I'm telling you, he is going to win it, because I cannot see how the Democrats are going to make up this gap of between 400 and 600,000 votes when they just barely won by 80,000 in 2020. And Republican turnout so far with early voting is about the same as it was in 2020. So the majority of Republicans, a little over half, are going to vote today. And if for some reason we don't know, Democrats all of a sudden mostly decided to show up today instead of early voting, which very unlikely for them, because usually two-thirds of their votes come before election day. So they did really well with that in 2020. But one, ballot requests for Democrats are way down. Ballot returns are way down. And all they have basically left is voting today, and they're going to have to show up in numbers that we've not seen the Democrats do yet in person. So I have not heard about any online stuff trending about Trump's going to steal the election, so make sure you vote on election day. I haven't heard anything like that. So I really want to be careful not to get people too high, okay? What I'm saying though is these are all really incredibly better than expected numbers, and you're going to have a lot of women that vote. Now today, if the Democrat turnout is not very good because they're not enthused with Kamala Harris, which could very well be the case, we'll know tonight if Trump won Pennsylvania, because it will be obvious. And the reason why I say it would be obvious is because it'll just come down to a mathematical equation. They'll know how many Democrats voted, they'll know how many Republicans voted, and the actual voted tally will be submitted, and they know how many ballots were mailed out by party. And you would have to see a lot of Republicans defect and vote for Kamala because they hate Trump. And there are some of those voters. I kind of wish the President Trump had not kind of like shunned Nikki Haley because of a loyalty issue. And I'm going to get in, once we cross this intersection here, I'll get into the reason why. Very important reason, because of something that happened last night. Hopefully that is a good sign for Trump, despite it being possibly a bad one. All right, so last night, if you're not familiar with the East Coast or elections, we have a little place in New Hampshire, okay? It's the first place in the country that gets to vote. It's called Dixville Notch. There's always about only 5 or 6 people that vote. That's it. And this year's Dixville, call it Dixville because we have one here in Maine. But Dixville Notch, I'll tell you what they did in 2020 first. Joe Biden got 5 votes, Trump got none, 0, in Dixville Notch. Last night, Trump got 3 and Kamala got 3 out of 6 voters. So, out of those 6, okay, out of those 6 voters, I hope you're following what I'm saying. Out of those 6 voters, 4 of them were Republicans. All right? Now, you'd have to understand New Hampshire. New Hampshire has a lot of independents, and even the Republicans are moderates, as are a lot of the Democrats. So, what that means is that you had, thanks. So what that means is you had one turncoat, one Republican voted for Kamala. And I don't know what her sex was, but I just said it. I'll guarantee you that was a female. And the reason why I say that is I don't think there's any male that would be voting for Kamala. Maybe that's sexist of me to say, I don't know. But I do know that we had a 3-3 tie last night in Dixville Notch. And this is important because the other 2 votes weren't Democrats. Now, 2 of those independents voted for Kamala. So we had 1 Republican and 2 independents vote for Kamala, and we had 3 Republicans vote for Trump in Dixville Notch. So it's interesting that 6 votes were cast, not by any Democrat whatsoever, and the vote was split. What we need to watch today nationwide is how are the independents in Pennsylvania going to break? Are they going to break for Kamala, or are they going to break for Trump? Or are they not going to vote for either one? So those are the big questions that need to be asked, honestly. If they don't break for Trump, that's not good. Now, there has been some polling that suggests that independents do favor Trump because they don't like Kamala. And to be quite honest with you, independents worry more about things like paying rent, buying food, cost of living. And I don't think Kamala sold a good plan. I don't know how well the abortion issue is going to play with independent women. But a majority of independents lean left, okay, so you need to acknowledge that as well. But they don't vote for everything blue. We'll have a better idea of this later tonight But right now, if Republicans show up and vote, Trump should win this. We might not know for a couple days, maybe not even, well, I'm guessing we'd probably know about Thursday because there's not as many mail-in ballots as there was, thank you, in 2020. So that's all good. Should take less time to count them. There was a few in western Pennsylvania. A lot of the electronic voting machines didn't work right. The flash drives didn't operate properly. But those have been remedied. So those are the kind of things that end up on the internet. And a lot of people get up in arms, they get angry. And that's done a lot by people looking for clicks. So it's one of those things where one way or the other, you need to understand that the Trump campaign has, and the Republican Party, they literally have thousands of lawyers in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. More lawyers than anybody's ever seen. And so don't worry about that, folks. These problems were fixed. They were fixed early. And a couple of the districts that had problems are going to be staying open 2 hours later tonight to compensate for the time they were shut down. And that's because the Trump campaign has lawyers doing this stuff, enforcing the laws. If you're not following, there was a Bucks County activist, Democrat, poll worker who kicked everybody out and told Republicans to go home when the machines didn't work, and that's not what the law says. So they were denied their right to vote. The Trump campaign immediately filed a lawsuit, and the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania said that that poll has to stay open for early voting an extra day, which they did. So people got to vote. So they're right on top of everything this year. So it's really good. The other thing is the Trump campaign is pretty confident that they have been staying on top of cheating. To this point, anyway. So, rest assured, okay? Calm down. Cool your jets. It is a beautiful, nice, warm day here. I'm actually getting very warm. Feels more like it's about 60 degrees than in the mid-50s, which is good. This makes for a nice, pleasant walk. And so to reiterate, okay, Republicans early voting, turning in mailed absentee ballots, mail-ins, requested about 1.7 million, and they have returned about 1 million. So there's 700,000 mail-in ballots that have not been returned by Republicans that requested them. So that could be any combination of things. It could be simply they're going to take their ballot in person on voting day that they got in the mail, which is legal. And the other thing is if you go to a district that isn't yours, with Pennsylvania law, all you have to do is destroy the ballot that you have and tell them that you haven't voted yet. And the law says you have to be allowed to vote even if it's not your district. So they got all these stupid little loophole dumb things there. But basically what it means is we don't know how many of those ballots are going to be turned in or not. Maybe they won't be. So that's always a possibility. So we have to be aware of that, different anomalies. Don't underestimate the women vote this year. But, like I said, if you're going by the amount of enthusiasm out of Philadelphia and other places in Pennsylvania, Democrat enthusiasm is down by a lot. They're not showing up. And Democrats right now are panicking over the black vote and Hispanic vote. They're not showing up for Democrats. So, of course, we'll see what happens, right? But so far, with hard data, they're not showing up. They're not. For Democrats. Republican turnout is great. Lots of enthusiasm. People are voting. That continues through the evening tonight. This should mean Trump wins, okay? That's really what it comes down to. So what I want you to watch tonight, don't even know if I'll have this uploaded in time, maybe. But, you know, you got things that you're doing and probably won't see this till tomorrow or later. So I'll just talk about it. You'll be able to figure it out. So we have the voting for the rest of the day today, and we're going to take a walk down and check out enthusiasm. Since I'm going for my walk anyway, we'll kill two birds with one stone. And so the Philadelphia area, which includes the suburbs around Philadelphia, voter enthusiasm for Democrats is way down by about a third, it looks like, for early voting. Okay, early voting. Now, typically, these people vote early, Democrats in general. That's been a thing with them for a long time now. I don't understand why that would change this year. That wouldn't make sense. So you can almost count on it, but not quite, right? Because, you know, weird things happen. Like this year, Republicans are voting early. But you see a lot of this argument about, well, Republicans that usually vote on voting day are the ones that voted early. Yes and no, okay? No, I say that because the Republicans registered about 500,000 new voters. There's about 500,000 new Republicans in Pennsylvania. If they show up to vote, which a lot of people believe they will, it's going to be a really good night. Because remember, in 2020, with record voter turnout for both parties, remember, Trump got more votes than any incumbent in history, and he's starting to pull those same numbers, okay, with the early voting request that he did in 2020. So the election was decided by 80,000 votes in Pennsylvania out of millions, okay? So with the Republicans, with the Democrats only being ahead by much less than they usually are, that is much easier for Republicans on voting day to catch them, and they will. So that's why it's imperative to find out how many women are voting on election day for Democrats that show up on election day as opposed to early voting. So that's the point, the reason why I'm making that point. Typically they just vote by mail. So majority, not a majority, but a good chunk. So there are still a lot of Democrats that are going to show up and vote today, but it's not expected to be the numbers that they've had in the past. While conversely, the Republicans are putting up excellent numbers, and potentially we're going to see something historic tonight, and we may even see a winner declared tonight. Which brings me to my other part I want to bring up. when the polls start closing on the East Coast. First ones are going to be at 7 p.m. I believe it'll be New Hampshire, Virginia, a couple other states. Virginia is really important because if Trump does really excellently in Virginia, even if he doesn't win Virginia, and it looks like he might almost win Virginia, that means he's going to be up everywhere else too. Now, if he pulls off winning Virginia, well, we know what that means for the rest of the election. That means you can put this in the bank, it's over. So, the other thing to watch is Michigan. All right? Michigan is under the new voting rules that they have in place. They've been counting the early ballots as they've been coming in, and they're going to have results fairly quickly. Keep in mind there's some really big cities in Michigan, so the ballots out of Detroit probably going to take a while to count, but the Secretary of State in Michigan, who is a hardcore liberal, says we should know by 1 a.m. Okay? And I believe that's the case. One, because the enthusiasm's not where it was in 2020 in either mail-in, absentee, or in-person early voting for Democrats. And make no mistake, early voting, that's people going in person for Democrats, voting early, is down. It's down. Especially among men, and especially among blacks. Now, the Democrats cannot win without a black vote. Everybody knows that. That's why they pander to them so hard. And it looks like many black people are not buying it anymore. And then you have a lot of these young people who want the killing to stop in Palestine. Whether you're for that, against it, what your opinion is, doesn't matter. It matters to a lot of these young liberal Democrat voters who have sworn they're not going to vote for Kamala. So, all right, I'm going to head down this way here. As we're on our way. So we're going to head down over here. You've been here with me before, and it looks like this whole field is a carpet. It's not even real grass. It's starting to get worn out. Wow, I don't know how good an idea that was. Maine winter and weather is not going to be good to that. So anyway, I'm coming down this way because nature calls. I have to use one of the porta things before we walk down to where you vote. And hopefully you're getting the gist of what I'm talking about with turnout, mail-in ballots, and I'm spending a lot of time talking about Pennsylvania and Michigan because if Trump wins either one of those, basically the election's over. So the other election to watch at 8 o'clock is 8 or 8:30 is Michigan, North Carolina, Georgia. So at 8 o'clock, I believe Georgia and North Carolina, we should know what's going on there. And Georgia is going to be a very quick call tonight, according to the experts. They really got their crap together with vote counting. We're not going to have these delays. And so that should be really interesting. Fully expecting Trump to win Georgia, but the reason why I'm interested in it is right now he's ahead by 2 points polling. If he wins Georgia by 4 points, then that means you can probably add a couple more points to Pennsylvania. And that goes into that 2% win margin I was talking about, where they will actually call the state for somebody. Now, if Kamala wins Michigan, that's 50 plus years, all right, whoever has won Pennsylvania has won Michigan too. They go in pairs, and usually whoever wins Michigan and Pennsylvania ends up winning the election. So that's why we need to watch that. We just exited the porta potty. I don't know if you remember a winter walk. We came down here when it was warm. It actually wasn't a winter walk. It was close to it. But now we're going to head down to where people vote, see what's going on. And so basically what I was saying, that we're going to have to watch what's going on tonight. I got to put my selfie stick back together. So we're going to watch what's going on tonight, and keep an eye on the first poll closings. Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia. So Virginia will be at 7, and New Hampshire. Those will be important to watch. I can tell you some good signs outside Cleveland, Ohio. Okay, Cleveland, Ohio had their suburb outside Cleveland. As soon as the sun was coming up this morning, they opened, and they had an absolutely huge line out the door, down the street, through the parking lot. People were absolutely excited to vote, and I think about 80% of them were men, and I think they were in a red area. So that means that these Republicans showed up to vote around Cleveland, Ohio. That's all good news, because the enthusiasm is there. It's very important. Very important. So, with that, I'm going to come down this way. I can see the voting place, and as you can see by the voting place, that parking lot is full. So the polls are open. Looks like people are voting. So I just wanted to come down here and check this out myself. A couple of big elections here in Maine for Congress specifically. This also is a red district, despite it being the second most populated area in the state, and despite the city being run by Democrats. The districting has this as a Donald Trump red district, which he has won twice already in the past. I don't anticipate anything different this year. In fact, the enthusiasm this year has been through the roof. And I have also talked about how we're not seeing the same thing with people stealing Trump signs. And I think a lot of people are calming down with that, and I think they are going to vote. They're going to vote for Trump. And I think the Democrats that hate Trump are being less vocal about it. Of course, we'll find out, because I'm wearing a MAGA hat, or a MAGA hat, as some people call it. MAGA. So like I said, I have already voted. They have their parking for voters only signs. They've had these same signs since the 70s and 80s. As you can see, they're a bit knackered. These are the same signs they had when I was a kid. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Very cool. So it looks like people are turning out. They're coming in and out. So I just wanted to come down here and see what's going on.
Take you.
Hi.
Hi.
So we got a lot of people that are showing up to vote. So that's good. I'm going to walk up through the parking lot. And this parking is for voters only. So there's not something else going on. So I don't want to see any comments like, oh, they're probably there for something else. No, they're here to vote. So there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm today, which is good. That's always good. And so we'll walk on up this way. And it's still in the afternoon. Most of the people are going to be here after 4 or 5 o'clock. It'll be dark. It gets dark here now at 5 p.m. And people get out of work. They're going to come vote. Polls will be open until 8 in Maine. So there's probably going to be lines to vote. And all I'm going to say is I hope people stay in line. I hope people stay in line and vote. Very important to stay in line. It's pretty much the law in every state. If you get in line to vote, your vote will count. They can't close until you vote. So don't let anybody tell you to leave. Absolutely never. And as you can see behind me, voter turnout is good. Of course, we don't know who they're voting for. And you have a lot of Maine law where you can't intimidate voters. And so you can ask general questions. Who did you vote for? Or, excuse me, do you have any moment to say anything about the election, that sort of thing. But I'm not really interested in that today. I just wanted to see who turned out. And the reason why I'm not interested in that is I already know from this area, this time of day, a lot of the people that I talk to, they're going to be voting for Kamala Harris. That's a given. Like I said, this is the second most populated area in a blue city. And we're going to go up this way. So what that means is somebody yelling at me. Maybe they didn't like my hat. What do you think? Some car going by was yelling at me. So that's the thing, you know, somebody might be. Now I think what they yelled was, I think they yelled Trump. Trump, it was one word like that, so I didn't really hear it well. Anyway, I'm gonna hang a left up ahead here and walk out of here. So hopefully people go vote today. Everybody votes, and I hope they understand their important right to go vote. So to me, it looks like turnout has been very good, very excellent, and it looks like people are getting out of school. So I'm gonna head down this way, and we're gonna hang a left up the road a piece, find our way out of here, and see what's going on up this way. So we got a lot of young people getting out of school, and Looks a lot different than when I went to school here many moons ago. There's a lot more diversity than in the past. Which, by the way, you know, I was part of the diversity back then. I just had a white skin color. Franco-American, French. Very large population Franco-American here. Came here from Canada because of economic upset at the turn of the century or late 1800s. And came here for a better life because things were pretty hard in Canada. And so that's my heritage. So, like I've always said, we welcome people in America from other places. It's very important that you come here and do so legally, become naturalized citizens, or get your green card because you've gone through the process to become a citizen. And so you're more than welcome. Just do it the right way. Anyway, with that, we got to see what the vote is down here. It's got a good vibe. And like I said, later today, most of the voting is going to happen after 5 o'clock. And I do know that in the past, it was not this busy as it is now. So that's definitely a good thing to see. Definitely a good thing to see. So keep an eye on these states tonight. It's going to be really important to watch these states. North Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, Virginia, New Hampshire, and so let's flip this around here. So anyway, I'm enjoying this walk today. I'm getting a good walk in. It's warm, warmer than it has been for a few days, so that's good. People have good weather to go vote. It's comfortable. You got to stand in line. You're not freezing your baguettes off. And that's always a good thing. So anyway, this is going to be an interesting day and an interesting time. And there's going to be a whole new look on America. It's not going to be easy. But I feel that a lot of Americans feel like it's time for a very big political change. Kamala Harris is trying to capture that in a bottle with a bunch of false nonsense, disingenuous promises. And I think Americans see through that. And I think genuine enthusiasm for Kamala is low. And I think that's why we're seeing a low Democrat turnout. And so that's just the facts. It's going to come down to now, do the men show up tonight to vote? Which I think they will. Will the new Republican registered voters that the Republicans have really focused on in swing states show up? I believe so. Are the women going to show up for Kamala? That's a big question. Just because somebody's a woman doesn't mean they're voting for Kamala. Not all women feel the same way about the abortion issue. So there are disadvantages that Kamala has with that rhetoric. But let's put it this way. 2022, that story with the abortion from the Supreme Court broke, and less Republicans won in 2022, and it prevented a red wave. Thank you. It prevented a red wave from happening that we would have got otherwise. So a lot of people said that the polling for the red wave was wrong. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was the abortion issue. Everybody knows that. That's being honest about it. Somebody on that school bus was yelling at me. Hopefully I make it home without getting killed. So anyway, it's one of those things where I don't care if people yell things at me, that's fine. Just don't do any violence. Just please don't. Nobody, either side, ever. So anyway, you know, 2022, we still won the House, I guess is my point. Not as large as people had anticipated. So it made an impact, but it didn't change the outcome. Okay, that's the point I want to make. You have a lot of women that might be upset about the abortion thing, but they also can't pay their rent, and they don't like the idea of the state being intrusive on the parents with their own children, like Democrats do with their trans policies and gender ideology and kumbaya stuff in schools. So you're going to have a lot of women who are going to decide what's more important, to feed your kids, pay your rent, have more wages, or kill babies. So, hello. So we'll see what happens with that. It's going to be interesting. I think Kamala might get some advantage from that. But I guess what I'm saying is the men aren't showing up for her. And black people aren't voting. So, you know, she's going to have to rely on young people. And that's always risky because most of the time they don't show up. Maybe 50%. So, I think it's going to be a very good night tonight. Just based on that. Now, if I saw things that sent alarm bells, I would be honest with you. But Republicans are doing everything you would expect them to do. And in a lot of cases, they're overperforming. And that needs to continue with in-person voting throughout the day. If that continues, then Trump's going to win. You'll see that in Michigan tonight. And the other thing to watch out for in Michigan is, and this is a factual number, okay, I'm not making this up. One of the top Muslim American people in Michigan, they have organized to get out the vote for Trump. He promises thousands of votes for Trump that he never got before in Michigan. And this is a big deal. That's why I said watch Dearborn, Michigan. That's going to be very important. So, hello, sir. So we'll watch that. Dearborn, Michigan has a huge Muslim American population that like Trump because Trump wants peace. People are sick of seeing people getting killed for stupid reasons. So, you know, they want the death and destruction to stop. And they know they'll get that with Trump. So, that's one of those things. That's a very big deal. It's a huge motivator for Muslim Americans. Now, we have a large Muslim American population here in Lewiston, Maine. Somali, a lot of them have been here since 2000. So, I don't know how many of them are citizens now. They've been here long enough, but their children were born here and they were born with citizenship. Don't know how they're going to vote. Don't know if they really care about what's going on in Palestine. So, don't know what's going on with the young people. But I do know that people are showing up to vote for Republicans. And I do know that a lot of the independents are going to side with Trump. What's that? A what video? I don't. Yeah, I'm just recording while I'm walking. Thank you. So that person wanted to know why I'm videoing while I'm walking. I am not going to stop and talk with people today. It's election day. Don't know what the hell's going on. So we are going to get across here when I can. Head back to the ranch. So I couldn't understand what that guy was asking me. It was 2 or 3 immigrants. I didn't understand what he was saying. So the girl that was with them answered the question. So anyway, I'm gonna walk on here. Hope you're enjoying the walk today. We're at about 3.5 miles, a little less. And so I'm gonna flip the camera around now, just walk for a bit, because we got an intersection coming up. It's pretty busy. And if somebody does something stupid, I at least want a video record of that. So, very good voting day today. From what it looks like, I want you to enjoy the evening, okay? I'm not all stressed out, I'm really not. I feel calm, cool as a cucumber, because I'm a numbers person. And it's starting to look like, I'll know more later tonight, but it's starting to look more like it's going to be too big for them to cheat without getting caught, so they won't. I think the last thing they want is for Trump to have the election declared against them and then they got caught for major league cheating. That would be a huge embarrassment, and the Congress of the United States does have the authority to remedy that if that happens. You should know. So, and I believe the Supreme Court would intercede in that. Well, let's hope nothing like that happens, okay? They would have to do an awful lot of cheating. So, and the other thing is the other problem you have is the media telling everybody it's a coin flip, it's a toss-up. It's not, okay? But they're doing that so their voters don't feel like this is over already. Because if they do, they're not going to go vote. Because a lot of young people lack motivation to go vote. So you don't want to do things to scare off your voters by telling them that Trump is losing so bad or Kamala's losing real bad. So we knew, and I've said this a month ago or more, I had said that the closer we get to the election, the tighter the polls are going to be. And the thing with polls is they are indicators. They are not exact. And I'll give you a good example. that you will understand, okay? If you have a championship game, doesn't matter what sport, but we'll just pick like the NFL, okay? Because you got the East that's going to play the West, okay? You got the Democrats versus the Republicans. You follow? I'll flip this around for this segment. So you have Democrats versus Republicans in the Super Bowl. And both teams come into the Super Bowl championship game with their own strengths and weaknesses, but both sides think they're going to win. How many Super Bowls have you seen that finish up decided by a field goal? Very few. I mean, Patriots, you know, that's happened. But typically when you have two teams that are both very strong and the best in their conference, and they ranked high and they're very powerful teams, sometimes you see a blowout. It's whatever game is brought that day. So in this case, that's why Trump's been using the analogy of, you know, we're in the fourth quarter, and we need to get into the end zone for the winning touchdown. And that's up to us. We have to show up and vote, is what he was saying. So, a lot of these states are close. But 1 or 2 points is a big difference in close elections. It's the difference between winning by a lot or losing by a lot. Trump comes into this election in a good spot. Some polling had him at 2% in Pennsylvania. Honest polling. If that's the case, Trump should win Pennsylvania if people turn out to vote, and if we continue to see the decline in Democrat voter enthusiasm, which I think we are going to see that continue tonight, of people not showing up for Democrats in the numbers they need. And you're going to start seeing them panicking later tonight, trying to convince themselves that everything's fine. And you'll be able to see that when you watch the broadcast. And it's going to be interesting to watch. So, then again, if people don't turn out for Trump, it could be the opposite. You may see the media start getting all giddy. They might start getting giddy and start talking about the Harris presidency. So, anyway, my point is, we still have Trump signs here, right here, at a busy intersection, where in past years there weren't any, because they wouldn't be there 10 minutes. Somebody would open their car door and steal them. So, I talked about it on one of my walks the other day. We're just not seeing the signs being stolen, and I know that might be a ridiculous way to really judge Democrat enthusiasm, but they don't seem to be as rabid as they were in the past. And that's because Kamala sucks. They know Kamala sucks. They friggin' know she's horrible, okay? All this enthusiasm you see in the media, that's all ginned up. It's all fake. You know, she has to have Bon Jovi perform to fill the whole place, and free concerts. So anyway, we're going to see something interesting tonight. It's going to be fun. I'm going to upload this video and put it live as soon as it uploads. But I don't anticipate anybody watching this before the election, since it's happening now. And it does take a little bit of time to edit this stuff. but I am going to upload it. And so I hope you went and go vote today. I hope you voted today if you're watching this after Election Day. And if you didn't go vote, then you suck. And I mean that sincerely. I absolutely cannot abide somebody complaining about the price of donuts and you didn't go vote. What kind of an a-hole does that? So don't be one of those guys. If you voted, complain about prices all you want to. But if you didn't vote, I don't want to hear it. So we're gonna head on up the road, finish up this walk, and you know, it's have fun with it, you know? Have fun with it. This is a good election. This is the first election that we're in that, to me, I feel like we have an advantage. It's going our way. And they tried in the media to say that the Puerto Rican comment is going to hurt Trump at the polls. It's not, because for one thing, Trump didn't make the comment. Somebody else did. The same people that already hate Trump are going to equate that to Trump. And I think I've seen a lot of Puerto Ricans online, and they don't care about the joke. Because Puerto Rico actually has a problem with garbage. So I think you're going to see a lot of people show up to vote that are Puerto Rican for Trump. And Trump is doing very well with Hispanic. And last night, during Trump's last rally, Joe Rogan finally endorsed the candidate after saying he wasn't going to, and he endorsed Trump. So that's all good, because millions of men listen to Joe Rogan, and Trump needs that male vote to get out. So the other thing that helps Trump, realistically, is you got RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk, and just having an RFK who's going to be working on keeping Americans healthy and changing the FDA, that's a big deal. That's the Food and Drug Administration that's been corrupted by big corporate greed that support Democrats all the time. Everything in DC is corrupt. Everything. And it needs to be fixed or our country's gone. So this is like a dream team, a dream come true, and they have to win tonight. They have to. So people need to get out and vote. And that's it. This is it. It's showtime tonight. It's the Super Bowl. To finish up my football analogy. But just because two really good teams hit head-to-head, sometimes you see one team will get blown out. And yes, this is a close election poll-wise, but 1 or 2% in Pennsylvania is that's a big number to overcome for Democrats, if that poll is accurate, which I have every reason to believe it is, because you had two polls say it was tie with a margin of error of 3 points, and you had two polls, which are very reliable, say that Trump was 2 points ahead, and I believe those. So it should be a very good night, because if that's true and all the male Trump voters show up, which includes independent male voters who don't like Kamala, they spent a lot of time and money on Tim Walz appealing to independent male voters or male voters that don't like Trump. And it didn't really get any traction. They tried the white dudes for Harris, and I don't think that got any traction either. So I'm not seeing her enthusiasm in voting. So I mean, there's nothing more I could say about that. I can beat it to death, but I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to convince myself that's the case. I hope you don't think that. This guy's trying to convince himself. No, these are hard numbers. They're undeniable. Democrats are down. They're down not just a little bit or a few thousand. They're down by hundreds of thousands of votes than where they are normally accustomed to. I think a lot of that is just a lack of enthusiasm for Kamala. It's, you know, plus the economy, the border. You start adding in all these issues, and a lot of her demographics are jumping ship because she's not convincing them she's going to fix it. She's saying a lot of things to try to win Pennsylvania, but I think people just know she's disingenuous about it. You know? So I'm going to head back to the ranch, finish up my walk through here. I did my shopping last night, so I didn't have to go do anything tonight. I got some fizz, got some milk, got a couple other things, and I got some snacks. I'm gonna have my snacks to eat tonight. And I'm gonna do what a lot of people are gonna do. I'm gonna fire up the internet. I haven't decided what I'm going to watch for election coverage. I don't think I'm gonna watch just one channel. I think I'm gonna flip around. Not cable TV. I don't subscribe to any cable TV, but I do have my sources that do show CNN and MSNBC and things like that. I can't stand watching MSNBC longer than 10 or 15 minutes. But I have seen a lot of the rhetoric from people on CNN, like Dana Bash. She was none too happy about Megyn Kelly speaking at a Trump rally last night. Megyn Kelly made an appeal to women to vote for Trump and to save children from being transgendered. And so she made an appeal to the many people that were watching Trump's rally last night. And Dana Bash on CNN had a very insulting comment from Megyn Kelly that I'm not going to repeat here. And it was pretty vulgar. But that's what liberal white women do, okay? Female, white liberal female. The angriest, most vindictive, vicious creature in the world. The virtue signaling white liberal female. So, well, this turned out to be a beautiful day. Earlier today it was raining. This is nice. People have nice weather to go vote. It's not windy, it's not cold. I'll be able to stand in line comfortably. So, hope you enjoyed the walk down to look at the voting place. As we just hit 4.5 miles. And I'm glad you enjoyed my woods walk, gun talk number 34 yesterday. Sunday, I mean. The reason why I say I hope you enjoyed it is we did run into that Vietnam veteran Chris, who hates Trump, and he overheard my conversation talking about Wisconsin with you guys, and he interceded my conversation asking about the election. He assumed that I was a Harris voter, I guess, because he seemed very surprised after he asked who I was voting for, and I said Trump. His face turned to stone. Yeah, we're out here. We exist. So, anyway, that was interesting. I'm glad I had a civil conversation with him. He tried to spew the usual propaganda that they say on the TV. Project 2025. Trump hates soldiers. He hates the military. He hates veterans. The key thing he said that got me, though, was the current propaganda is Trump is unhinged. And he was like, what was going on with Trump's microphones? The guy's unhinged. It's like he parroted exactly what he heard on the media broadcast. People like that are dangerous. I'm sorry. They're easily influenced. Nice guy and everything. I wish him the best. But I think the thing he did that bothered me the most was when I said, God bless you, sir. I'll say a prayer for him. He rolled his eyes. That's, you know, back in the day when I was a kid, that wasn't something that was radical or extreme. Now you get an eye roll. So I thought that was pretty insulting. They scoff at God and religion, and you know, and that's part of what the problem is today, a lot of it. And so anyway, as we wrap this up, I'm going to say a prayer for the election tonight to the Lord upstairs, and make sure you vote. And if you did vote on the mail-in ballot, if you live in one of those states, you can track it. Please be sure that your vote counted before the evening is over tonight. If you see this, well, you can still vote. And if it's not, then you need to fix that and get your vote in. So anyway, I guess that's about all. Just say a prayer for the cheating, if there is cheating, for them to get caught. That'll be a big deal. That will vindicate everything Trump said. So that would be huge. And so anyway, thank you very much. And we will talk to you soon. I'm going to get across the street here if I can. And so like I said, click like and subscribe, share the content, and I try to be honest with you as much as possible having to do with that stuff. It's very important. I don't want to be a rah homer, but you know, go out and vote. Fight, fight, fight. And we'll see you on the next walk, hopefully with much better news, even though today's news was not bad. I think we're going to do well. We'll see. Talk to you soon, everybody. Thank you for walking with me. God bless you and your family. Say a prayer for Trump and the election. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.